Let's pick up where we left. Like, as soon as dawn with the rose-tinted hands had lit Odysseus' son put on his clothes and got up from his bed. He slung a sharp sword from his shoulder, bound a stout pair of sandals. As soon as dawn, the rose-tinted hands with lit his Odysseus and put his clothes. As soon as dawn with her rose-tinted hands had lit the east, Odysseus and put on his clothes and got up from his bed. He slung a sharp sword from his shoulder, bound a stout pair of sandals. His comely feet and strode from his bedroom, looking like a god. He at once gave us orders to clear voiced cries to call his long-haired compatriots. Telemachus also set away further with the place. Set away for the meeting place. Bronze spear in hand, escorted only by two dogs that trotted beside him. Athena ordered him with such chit-chat that all eyes were turned on him with admiration when he came up. The elders made a way for him as he took his father's seat. Against British and warlord Augustus Emperor remained over 2 years of with the first dispute. This was natural for his own soldiers and Antiphas had sailed with King Odysseus established ships to Aegion, the city of Perseus, only to be killed by the sea with Cyclops given him when he made the last of his meals of Spain. And although he had 3 other sons, Euronymous, who gathered with the suitors and who worked steadily on their father's roots, and the first always in his mind, his grief was inconsolable. For that son lost that he now rose to assist the gathering of fellow countrymen and regular attention. Not once since the gallant Odysseus sailed have been called to assembly as held rejected as someone is now one of young men or one of the older generation, and what emergency was made of take this step. Perhaps he had heard that the army is coming back and maybe wished to see the release. My friend the man who summoned this gathering is not far to see. I suffering under a ordering the killer to myself. One of our men said, I have no prior news. I would share it with you if I had not received some other questions of national importance that I was. Trying to cover the representations of the others also that I have more of fingers ongoing pressure on the visual and attention and these figures are actually the same as so that equal essentials might make terms of forest leaders when and the claimant would differ. They spend the whole time in and out of as they slaughter our oxen of sheep, our fattened goats, and they feast themselves and drink our sparkling wine. We never thought for on the when it is being mentioned the truth is that there is no one like Odysseus in church to purge the house in this disease. For the task ended, the attempt would serve only to expose our miserable weakness. Yet how gladly I should understand my own defense had I the force of my command. For I tell you things that do not that are past all of anger in the way in which this comes of our decency. Till every atom was repaid. It is a present attitude that fills my heart with a bitterness for which I find new courage to speak. His passion rose, and in the end he burst into tears and flung his staff on the ground. A wave of pity swept through the gathering. Nobody said a word or had the heart to give Telemachus a sharp reply. In the silence, His book is concerned and immersed into his flunky staff, and then a wave of pity swept through the gathering. Nobody said a word or had the heart to give the Telemachus a sharp reply, and the silence was unbroken. What red rock telecommunication, what an ugly show of spite. So you put us to shame, would you? And fix the blame on us, you are wrong. We suitors did not guilty. It in your own mother, that incomparable swimmer is the culprit. Listen for 3 whole years, in fact for closer for on her them at home. She set up a great wagon beginning. I should be grateful. The many lords who had gotten me now the king Odysseus is dead. If you could withstand an order for my hand till I have done this most of the threats I have not been utterly wasted. It is should for Lord. This meant this community that shot is all mad. Unless I must not risk the scandal there would be among my countrywomen. There is one who had amassed such wealth. But put to rest without a shot. That's how she talked and we like gentle meditation and shall be solitary and do the work for 3 years. She filled us for this trick of what we get already sleeping by. And one of her women who knew all about gave her mistress away. We caught her and revealing her beautiful work and she was forcibly completed them. This is because it's to sensitive you are here, you know it well. But to sign up more and make her marry the man whom my father chooses and worship. So much more of flying over the emotions, much better. She used to think skilling, fine handicraft, her excellent. She was forgetting her respect and she was now going out even study for all the because of the lady Diamond who had her heart diamonds in which as she yet in the present past period of her has used his wits as for I show you that so long as she maintains this attitude that she has been misguided enough to adopt the Shadows will continue to eat you out of house and home. She may be winning a great name for cleverness, but at what expense to you? So then we will not return to the ceremony until she makes her choice and marries one of her good engineers. The Iceland is replied it was quite impossible for her to cast around the mother who for me and who brought me up with my father somewhere at the and is not still alive thing was not a thing out. Into my head and sent my mother back to him. The Father of us has done his most to me. The gods would step in and look close of me. The avenging fires that my mother's curse. Silver stream from home and finally my fellow man would cry shame upon me. If I take it then, I shall never be the word no. If the feeling of shame has been present in your own hearts, then God my place and feast yourself also within your own promise and sin chapters which is then I feel why I pray to them not what's for a day on can go scot free through or disturb you in the house of my this stress is not going to be parted from his friends much longer at this very moment and then he may be close at the hand showing the seeds of a bloody room for the suitors one and all which means disaster to many of the rest of us. How my prophecies are coming true. It was Eurymachus, son of Phobos, who rose to deal that non-human did humans to children, or they may be getting into mischief and leave me to neither of these things are better men than you get after. About business is in the sunny, but it is only one that has a meaning. As for Odysseus, he has met his fate abroad. In the field you had this, and when I say holds Telemachus is my own and once I viewed a hunting before the war. Let him tell his mother to remove to his father's house where they will make arrangements for her wedding and sees that she has a child story as its only for daughter. They will not tell them. Yes, the young lords giving up their unwelcome suit, for we are afraid if no one at all, certainly not of Telemachus for all his rhetoric, nor a gentleman. Paying attention to these prophecies that fall from your lips, they come to nothing and only get worse name. Christmas occurrence is welcome. Illustration as long as no love keeps us kicking our heels. So confronted, if I hear that he is alive and he on his way back, then I might reconcile myself and not aware of this mistake. But if I learn that when God I shall come home, build him a mound with all proper funeral rites, and give my mother him to the Islam. Two is that kindness and justice should not go on the basis of the loyal scope. In fact, he might just be well devote his days to tyranny and lawless deeds, if one may judge by the case of Odysseus, that admirable king to whom not one of the people whom he once ruled like a loving father gives thought today. Mind you, I pick no quarrel with these unruly suitors for the crimes they commit. It is their own skins they are risking when they wreck Odysseus starts in the belief that he is gone forever. Now it is the rest of you sitting there in abject silence that stir my indignation. They are literally few, and you are many, yet not a would have they had been you in condemnation or restraint. Upstream Leocritus, your son, interview crazy foolish about him. What sense is there in telling them odds are no odds? It would be hard on them to have the fight about it. Super. What if Odysseus of Ithaca himself came up and took it to his head to drive us nobles from the place because you found the study? I could have no joy in his return, much as she may have missed him. There he'd come to an ugly end if he faced odds in such a cause. So what? He'll never bring the journey of but will find himself sitting in Ithaca for many a long day, gathering news as best he can. The assembly people went quickly to accept the dismissal and now homes while the suitors made their way to the king Odysseus' house. In the meantime, Telemachus sought the solitude of the sea beach where he washed his hands in the grey surf and lifted them in prayer to Athene. Hear me, you that your God had come yesterday to my house. It was your command that I should sail across the mysteries to find out long lost father is ever coming. But see how my countrymen above all those bullies that besiege my mother and threaten me everything. Today has proved we Telemachus neither a coward nor a fool, nor destined to be such if we are right in thinking that our fathers Thinanthad is based in Persian. She assumed the appearance of Mandarin seemed so like him to deceive both eye and ear. When she come up and addressed Telemachus in this impediment, today has proved you Telemachus neither a coward nor a fool, nor distant person. We are right in thinking that the father's mainly Viber has descended to his son, and what a man he was in action and debate. No fear than this journey of yours will end in force of failure. It is only if we are not true son of Odysseus Monarch that I should think your plan might come to nothing. Few sons only die like fathers. Generally, they are worse, but just a few are better, and since we have seen that you are by no means lacking in Odysseus, which and of which cowards will avoid singing life, why then you have every reason to feel that you will make a success. Dismiss their plots and machinations from your mind. They are fools and there is no sense of honor in them. Or have they any inkling of the dark fate that is stalking so near and will strike them all down in a single day? You, meanwhile, will soon be off in this journey you have set your hearts on. For I am not your father's friend. I am ready to find you a fast ship and sail with you myself. Go home now and show yourself to the suitors. Then cut provisions ready and store them. Arrange yourselves the wine in the jars and the barley meal to keep your men feed. Meanwhile, soon stays meanwhile I will soon collect a crew. There was no loitering there for Telemachus. No. And he heard the voice of the goddess, but he set off once for home with a heavy heart. At the place he found there were full suitors, some fingering flutters, countrymen, and Dixnox with seized his hand and spoke to him as man to man. Our people will make all arrangements on behalf for a ship and victory. Let hell loose upon you whether I go to Pylos or Manager in Ithaca itself, and I shall not be aware of the journey I have spoken of. I am going if only as a passenger. It seems to believe, said one friend that I make wanted to talk about thrones. But who knows if he too takes to seafaring, he may stray from home and be lost like Odysseus, and what a nuisance that All the extra trouble of driving his adopting us and presenting his house to his mother and his rich groom. Ida was Celia, daughter of Ops, business and custodian. Calling her now to the store, Telemachus said, "Listen, nurse, will you draw me off some flagons of wine and let it be good stuff, the best you have next to the vintage you keep such care for your unlucky king, always hoping that he may dodge his fate and walk in one day from heaven knows where. Fill me 12 flavors and put the stoppers and pour me out of some barley meal and strong leather bags. 20 measures, please, of milk crushed grains. Not a word to anyone else. Get all the provisions together, and in the evening I shall fetch them myself with my mother has gone upstairs for the night. I am off to Sparta and shall leave for this mission. So, dear friend, at this his phone holders directly person to avoid the desperate child. She demonstrated with him. What on earth has put this idea into your head? What makes you that you must go wandering through the world? You and only son, the apple of your mother's eye, and King Odysseus' dead had gone far from his home in foreign parts. Why, the moment you back is turned, those fellows will be plotting mischief against you, and when they then sit tight where you are and guard your own property, there is no call for you to take to the hard life and wander around to barren seas. This guy is herself as Telemachus. They are all stayed and ready at the palace, but I must tell you that my mother knows nothing of this, nor any servants except one woman whom I took into my confidence. They brought down all the stores and stored them in their well-built gallery, taking their orders from Odysseus and Telemachus and followed Athena. But she took her seat on the after deck, and he sat down beside her. The sailors cast the hearses, climbed in, and took their place on the benches. And now, out of West Athens, of the flashing eyes, called up for them and study falling wind and sent it sinking over the one dark sea. Telemachus shouted to the crew to lay hands on the tackle, and they giving his orders. They hauled the up the firmast, stepped it in its hollow box, made it fast with stays, and hoisted the white sail with plaited ox. Goodbye the wind. The sails were out, and the dark wave hissed loudly. The choppy seas forging ahead on her course. When all was made snug in the swift black ship, mixing balls filled them in the plain. Telemachus with Nestor. Telemachus. Leaving the waters of the splendid east, the sun leaped into the firmament to bring light to the immortals and to men who plough the earth and perish. The travelers now came to Pylos and the stately citadel of Neleus, where they found the people of the sea, with sacrificing jet black bulls to Shodan, lord of the earthquake, god of the sable logs. There were 9 companions in the session, with 500 men in each, and every company had 9 bulls to offer. They had just destroyed the victims' entrails and were burning the pieces from the thighs in the god's honor. As the trim ship came bearing down upon them, the crew brailed up the sail, moored their vessel, and disembarked. Athene followed. Telemachus was the last to leave the ship. The goddess with the flashing eyes turned to him now and said, Telemachus, listen for it. But why have you crossed the seas if not to find out whether your I have had a practice in making speeches, and a young man may well hesitate to cross-examine one so much his senior. Telemachus replied, Athene, where your native wit fails, have one will inspire you. It is not for nothing that the gods have watched your progress ever since your birth. With this palace, Athene led off at a quick pace, and Telemachus followed in steps of goddess till they reached the spot where the people of Pallas were assembled in session. There sat Nestor with his son, while, while their followers around them were piercing meat with skewers of roasting. information for the blanket, but as soon as they caught sight of strangers, they all made a move in their direction, waving their hands in welcome and beckoning the newcomers to join them. Nestor's son, who was the first to reach them, took them both by the hand and gave them palace at the bouquet on downy fleeces spread over the sandy beach near his brother Therasimedes and his father. Then he helped them to the victims in the parts filled up a gold cup with wine and proffered it with these words to Pallas, Athene, daughter of Zeus, we are the who wears the aegis. This feast that you find us holding is in the Lord Poseidon's honor. Pray to the god, my friend, and when you have made your drink offering and a prayer as our right dictate the send the cup, my friend. Remus and his father. Then he helped them to the victim inner parts, filled a golden cup of wine, and proffered it with this word to Pallas, Athene, daughter of Zeus, who wears the aegis. This feast that you find us holding is in the Lord Poseidon's honor. Pray to the god, my friend, when you have made your drink of indictments or dictate, was on the cup of Nile wine to your companion here, so that he the same. For he to must be worship of the immortal. Immortal whom no man can neglect and it only because he is the younger. In fact, a man of my own age that I had this golden beaker to you first, and he placed the cup of sweet wine in Athens' hands. The goddess was delighted at the tech and which the young man had shown in giving her the golden beaker first, and at once began an earnest prayer to the Lord Poseidon. Hear me, Poseidon, creator of earth, and do not begrudge your supply and the fulfillment of our wishes. First of all, vouchsafe success to Nestor and his son. Consider next these others and make a gracious return to all envelopes for their symptoms offering. Grant lastly that Telemachus and I may successfully accomplish the task that brings us here in our black ship and afterwards get safely home. So the goddess prayed, and as each partition left her lips, she herself made its fulfillment sure. Then she passed the fine two-handler beaker to Telemachus, and Odysseus' son repeated her prayers. The outer flesh from the victims was now from the handler beaker to Telemachus, and Odysseus immediately repaired the Or are you cruising the men on chance like rovering pirates who risk their lives to ruin other people? Telemachus, inspired by Athene, who was anxious for him to catechise the old king about his father's disappearance, now plucked up the courage to make him a spirited reply. Nestor, son of Neleus, I salute you whom the Achaeans love to honor. You ask where we are from. I will tell you we are from Ithaca, which lies in Neon's and have come on not on public business as you will understand when I tell you that I am searching through the length and breadth of the land for any news that I can come up of my royal father, Valiant Odysseus, who is said years ago to have fought by your side at the sake of Troy. We can account for all the other who took part in the war. We know where each man fell, and sorry tale it is, but Zeus has not Odysseus' faith upon up to his body that in utter mystery, and no one can tell us for certain when he died whether he was the victim of some hostile tribe on land or whether he was lost at sea in Aphrodite's wave. So I have come here to plead with you in the hope that you will tell me the truth about my father's unhappy and by any chance you witnessed it yourself or heard the story from some wanderer like him. For if ever a man was born for misery, it was he. Do not soften your account out of pity or concern for my feelings, but faithfully describe the scene that met your eyes. Research you. If I ever Father Odysseus in the hard years of war, you had a Troy gave you his word to speak or act on your behalf and made it good. Remember when he did and tell me all you know. Oh, my fair friend, exclaimed Nestor the Gerenian charioteer. What memories the name of Troy brings back. The miseries we fierce Achaeans put up with their raid after raid across the misty seas in search of plunder to Achilles back and call fight after fight around the very wall of royal Priam's and there our best men fell. There were like ice lies there lies Achilles there Patroclus wise as the gods in council there too until of course my own dear son as good as you was brave the fastest runner in them all with the fighter to tell the full count of what the Achillean came surely endured at trial. There is no man on earth who can unfold to you the whole disastrous tale, not though you sat and questioned him for half a dozen years, by which time your questions would be gone, and you yourself be gone. For non-lying hours, we tried to bring them down by every stubborn device, even when the final victory came. You seemed to grudge the all the time. There was not a man that dared to match his wits against the admirable Odysseus, who in every kind of strategy proved himself supreme. Speaking of your father, if you really are the great man's son, indeed I cannot help looking at you. Yes, put it to them all that their first concern should be to get to their distant home across the sea, but this was not all the he was for keeping them there and making certain mockery towards in the hope of appeasing her terrible wrath, not realizing his folly how impeccable she would prove, for it is not so easy to divert the immortal gods from their purpose. While the pair of them stood there, bandying hard words, till their armed audience themselves divided into opinion and broke up the assembly in indescribable uproar. That night our rest was spoiled by windy stave feelings against our comrades' dance force US was making ready to strike us the fatal blow. In the morning, half of us ran our ships down into the tranquil sea and stowed in them our spoils and the captive women with their cradles round their necks. Then thought the rest still held aloof and stayed where they were in Agamemnon, the commander chief in our party. The sea was smooth, we soon made Tenedos and there. All longing to be home, we sacrificed the gods, but Zeus had no intention of letting us get home so soon. For his own crucial For his own cruel purposes, he set us all at loggerheads once more. As a result, one squadron swung the curved prows of their vessels round and turning back in their tracks. It was the flowers of Odysseus, that wise and subtle king, who thus saw fit to renew their allegiance to Agamemnon, son of Atreus. But I, well aware of the god's sinister designs, fled on what the amazed ships that found my company were like. Diomedes did the same, bringing his party with him, and late in our wake led Menelaus followed to caught up caught us up in Lesbos, where we were hesitating whether to choose the long passage outside the Raj coast of Chios and by of Syria, keeping the island in our left, or to sail inside. Chios past the windy heights of Mimas. In this dilemma, we prayed for a sign, and heaven made it clear that we should cut straight across the open sea. Euboea. Whistling blow up and our ships made splendid running down the highway of the fish, reaching Ginnistus in the night, and many a bull's thigh we lied on Sidon's altar after spamming that very stretch of water. It was on the fourth day that the company of Diomedes, the tamer of horses, brought their fine craft to anchor in Arcos, but I held on for Pylos, and the breeze never dropped from the moment when my gods and have no idea who escaped or who lost, but all the news has come to me. I sit here at home, you shall have his and I'll keep nothing back in the first place. Tell me the Mathematical permanently subsequently under the greater colors. The great Hercules' noble son and the pure son, the brilliant Silicate. Idomeneus brought all his men to greet all this, that is, who had survived the war. The sea got none from him. As for the Achaemen, I know your home is far from here, yet even you must have heard how he had so sooner got back that he fell a rash victim to Augustus' plot and a grim cognition there was for Augustus, which showed What a good thing it is. What a man, what a man does for a son to survive to as does this survive to pay the murderer or that killed that snake in the grass. Augustus who had killed his look my friend and what a tall and splendid fellow you have grown must be. As distant future generation will sing your patches the wise young Telemachus replied King Nestor whom that was revenge indeed. Orestes' fame will travel through land and live for generations still to come. If the gods will only give strength like to cope with the insufferable insolence of my mother's suitors and settle accounts with those ruffians for their blackguardly tricks, but fate has no such happiness in store for me, nor for my father either. I have to grin and bear things as they are. And said the radiant Nestor, now that you are home, now that your own remarks have put me in mind of it, I admit I have been told a whole crowd of young gallants are courting your mother and running around in your house as uninvited guests. Tell me, do you take this lying down or have the people of Ithaca been listening to some heaven-fed rumors that has turned their hearts against you? Who knows whether someday Odysseus may not come back alone perhaps or dead and pay the shooters out of all their violence. I only wish that bright-eyed Athene could bring herself to show when we have some of the loving care she devoted to your illustrations, Father, in the course of those hard campaigns of our at Troy. For never in my life have seen the gods displaying such open affection as Pallas Athene showed in her championship of Odysseus. Ah, if only she would love and care for you like that some of those. Clytemnestra not appeared to be dishonorable skill. She was a sensible woman. Meanwhile, we were sailing in company over the sea from Troy. Menelaus and I, the best of friends. But when we were abreast of the sacred cape of Sunium, where Utica just out of the sea, Phobos Apollo let fly his gentle darts of Neleus helpsman and struck him dead, the steering oar of the running ship in the hands. This man, Rodriguez, son of Hunter, had been the world's best steersman in Menelaus, though anxious to proceed, was detained at Slane till he could bury his comrade. The proper rights, but when he too had got away over the wide North Sea in those great ships, then Sidonian settlements on the river Iranus now, where the lands of Bhutan end. Out in the misty sea, there is a smooth rock that falls. Don't try to learn from him, nor leave her with tough scoundrels in the unless you want them to share it out, to eat up all you have, and to make a fuss of your explanation. I do urge you to pay Cornelius a visit, for he has only just got back from abroad and from a Regan so remote that one might well give up on the hope of return when the winds had blown. They served them all wine with wine. Tongues were thrown in the flames, the company rose and sprinkled liberation on them. And when they had made their offering and drunk their fill, Athene and Prince Telemachus both made a move to get back to the shelter of the ship, but Nestor stopped them, protesting loudly, "God forbid that you should go to your ship and turn your backs on my house as though it belonged to some third people." There were plenty blankets and rugs in the place for host and guest sleep between the comfort indeed. I have good bedding for all. I swear that the son of my family shall not lie down to sleep on his sister so long, so I am alive or son survive me here to entertain all the visitors that come under. Dear father, let the goddess of the blessing rise and the Telemachus may well accept their invitation for nothing could be so nothing could be so agreeable. Let him go off with you now and sleep in your palace while I return to Blackship to reassure them and tell them each their duties, for I am the only the party. All the rest are young fellows of much the same age as our gallant Telemachus, limited by ship and tonight and in the morning to set out on visit to those enterprising people, the companions with whom I had an outstanding claim of some importance to settle. But since my friend your guest, I suggest that you should send him and chariot with one of your sons and give him fastest and strongest horses in the stable. As he finished right, I attend to the form of seagull and flew off. They were all confronted on this. My friend, he cannot fear that you will ever be destroyed or out when young as you are. You already have your guardian gods for all that live on Olympus. This was no other than daughter of Zeus, the august lady of Triton, who singled out your noble father to for honor among the my queen be gracious to your servant and vouchsafe good to me. Try no fear that you will ever be destroyed or a knife. Young as you are, you already have a guardian gods for all. Yet Leman Olympus, this was no other than the daughter of Zeus, the original children of Singer. Father to for honor among the Greeks, my queen, be gracious to your servant and vouchsafe God reputed me and to the son to my faithful consort. I return you shall have a yearling brought in the brook, whom no one yet has broken in, and laid beneath the yoke. She shall be sacrificed to you with gold foil in her horns. His prayers reached the ears of Pallas Athene, and now the Garanian charioteer Nestor led the way towards his stately home, son and his daughter's husband. When they came to the royal place, they took their places in the settles and the chairs, and the old man prepared a bowl of filled wine for his guest. From a jar that had stood for 10 years before the maiden did cap and rose. When the old king had mixed a bowl of his vintage, he poured a little with endless prayers to Athena, who was with their libations and quenched their thirst, after which the rest went off their several quarters for night. But the Gerenian horsemen Nestor arranged for King Odysseus and Telemachus to sleep at the place itself on a wooden stood in the echoing portico with Patroclus beside him, for the young sperm and captain was the only American left in. They made their limitations and crossed. Yes. They all hurried off to carry out his orders. The Hellfire was brought up in from the nearest Prince Telemachus' crew came up from his good ship, and the smith arrived equipped with the tools of his trade. He unveiled the hammer and the sturdy tongue he used for working on a thing to attendant to accept the sacrifice. Then, instead, the old charioteer gave out the gold which the smith got on to file and laid out the heads on by way of to please the goddess. Next, Teretius and Couple led the heifer followed by the horns, and the lotus came up from the storeroom. The old charioteer Nestor now started the ritual with the lusted water and the scattered grain and offered up his earnest prayers to Athena as he began the sacrifice by throwing her lock from the victim's head on the fire. When they had made their petitions and sprinkled the barley kernels, Nestor's son Thereus boldly obstruct the escort through the windows in furnace. When they had made their petition and sprinkled the particle Mr. Sun, Theremin stand boldly up and struck the axe-cut through the tendons of the heifer's neck, and she collapsed. The woman raised their cry, Master's daughter, and his own with his royal condemnation. The man lifted the heifer from the toddler earth and held it up with the captain. Seized the restless could throw when the dark blood horde caused laugh at like it. But the carcass was latches of the teachings. He found a fat and laid drum made above them. This possessed the venom between burned on the flank. In the meantime, the beautiful Balicast King Nestor's youngest daughter had given the king his bath. When she had bathed him and loved him with olive oil, she gave him fine cloak around his shoulders so that he stood out the bath looking like an immortal god. He then went and sat down by Nestor, the secret of people. The beautiful Balicast King Nestor and his daughter. When they had roasted the other flesh and all of the sheep, they took their seats at the table with men of gentle birth to wait on them and fill their golden cups with wine. After they had satisfied their appetite and thirst, the Gerenian children announced his wishes. Up with you now, my lads, fetch Telemachus a pair of long horses and harness them to a chariot so that they can be getting on his way. They obeyed him promptly and soon had a pair of fast horses harnessed to a car in which the housekeeper kept bread and wine together with the dainties of the kind that royal princess ate. Telemachus took his place in the handsome chariot and Nestor's son, the captain Pisistratus, got in beside him, took the reins off his hands, and flicked the horses with the wind to start them. The willing pair flew off towards the plains, putting the high citadel of Pelops behind them, and all day long they swayed they up and down on the necks. By sundown, when the roads grew darker, they had reached Pherae, where they drove up to the house of Diacal, son of Autolycus, whose father was Alpheus. Third, they put up the night and received the gift that hospitality dictates, but thunder down had hardly touched the east with red. When they were harnessing their horses once again and mounted the gaily colored chariot out past the sounding Tico, and through the gates they drove a fleet of that beam to make the horses go, and the pair flew on with a will. In due course they come to the wheat plains and attacked the last stage of the journey. Such accident going had their throat bread made, and now the sun sank once more, and darkness swallowed all the tracks. Melanius and Menelaus and Helen. And so they come to the rolling lands of Lacedaemon, deep in the hills, and drove up to the place of the illustrious Menelaus. They found him Menelaus. They found him entertaining in large company of visitors in his house to celebrate the weddings of his son and the princess of his daughter. He was sending the princess as a bride to the son of Achilles, that recur in the bottom line, far long at Troy. And had given his permission. How the gods were making these two man and wife, and Menelaus was dispatching her with chariot and horses to the capital of Myrmidons, of whom her bridegroom was the king. But he had chosen Alector's daughter, a bride from Sparta itself, from his beloved son, the Gallian Megaphantus, whom a slave had borne to him. When it was clear that he could hope for no other children from Helen, once she had given him her mind, that lovely child was golden Aphrodite's beauty. They were bucketing then under the high roof of the great hall. These neighbors and clansmen of the illustrious Menelaus, and sitting in festive mood, a minstrel in the company sang drunkenly to the air, and a couple of acrobats dancing to the time. He sat with his tune through cartwheels in and out among the guests. Two travelers, Prince Telemachus and Nestor's noble son, come to and stand still in their chariot at the country gate. The Lord Thanos would who's at the post of query. The great Menelaus happened to come out to see them. Of at once thought the palace to inform the king, in whose ear he urgently whispered the news. May it please your majesty, we have sanctioned at the gates a couple of men whom I take them I look to be royal blood. Pray tell me whether we should unharness their horses for them or send them on someone else to undertake. That Hail Menelaus answered him indigently, my lord Thenius, you have not always been a fool, but at the moment you are talking nonsense like a child. Think of all the splendor that you and I enjoyed from strangers before we reach our home. In good aspect, the Jews might spare us from such pressing need again, unyoke their hearts at once, and bring good visitors into the house to join us to the feast. Athenius ran off through the hall shouting to his assistants. You have not always been a fool, but at the moment you are talking nonsense like a child. Think of all the speculate you and energy from seniors before we reached. We respect the serious. Ethanes ran off through the hall, shouting to his assistants to look sharp and follow him. They led the horses sweating from the yoke and tied them up the managers in the stable, throwing down beside them a fed of spelt mixed with white barley. Then they Ethonius ran off through the hall, shouting to his assistants to look sharp and follow him. They led the horses sweating from the yoke and tied the managers in stable, throwing down beside them. The immigrants opened their eyes in wonder. All they saw as they passed through the king's palace, it seemed to them that this lofty part of the sublime palace was lit by something of the sun's splendor. The moods when they had feasted their eyes on the sight, they went and bathed in polished baths, and after the maid servants had washed them, rubbed them with oil, and dressed them in warm mantles, and they took their riches and high choice in the sight of men and the sons of actions. A maid came with water and beautiful golden ever and poured it out over a silver basin so they could rinse their hands. She also drew a wooden table in their sight, and the staid housekeeper brought some bread and set it by them with a choice of delicacies and helping them liberally to all she had. Meanwhile, for no man folk could read such men as you are. As he spoke, he passed them with his own hands the rich piece of roast sirloin that had been given him as the portion of honor, and they held themselves before them. When they had satisfied their appetite and thirst, Telemachus leaned towards Nestor's son and whispered in his ear so that the rest might not hear. Look around the echoing hall, my dear Pisistratus. The whole place gleams with copper and gold, amber and silver and ivory. What an amazing place and present I can help thinking that court of Zeus and Olympus must be the son of this one. But I managed caught what he was saying and quickly. There was no moral mortal can compete with Jewish real lads. His house, all his belongings are everlasting. But when it comes to men, I feel that few or none can rival man me in wealth. Considering all the hardships I endured, the journey I made it to the 7 years that it took me to amass the fortune and to attain hope in my ships. My travel took me Cyprus in Phoenicia and to Egypt, Ethiopians, Sidonians, and I visited them all and I saw Libya too, where the lambs are born with sprouting horns and their dams, and 3 times in the course of the year, where nobody from king to shepherd need go without cheese or meat or fresh milk either, since all the year's eves have their udders full. But while I was wandering in these parts, making my fortune, an enemy of our house struck down my brother, cut off his cart through the treachery of his. So it gives me a little pleasure to call myself the Lord of all these evil, since, as you must have heard from your fathers, whoever they may be, I have had much sorrow in my life and have already seen the ruin of one lovely dwelling full of how I could here in my house with even a third of my former estate, if those friends of mine were still alive who died long ago in the broad plains of Troy, as far from Archon where the horse grazed, and yet, though I miss them all and all grieve for them as I sit here in all still sorrow find relief in tears, and the tears cease to fall. Soon, as soon does their child comforts cry. I do not mourn for them. The whole company is consoled as I am so much. I'll continue later on, and I have already completed 3 chapters. I mostly so yeah, I am very more likely to like very close or more likely I am I'll probably complete it. So Anyways, bye.